Welcome back to Surfing England HQ, episode 5 of Off the Lip. And today, in the deck chair, we have got one of my longest friends from Surfing England days, from events, and also a fierce rival from a other surf club, Woolacombe Boardriders chairman, Paul Barrington. Welcome to Off the Lip.
Thank you very much. Firstly, that made me sound really old. Mentally, still a youngster. But yeah. But no, yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I think as surfers, we always feel young, don't we, mate? It's like that. There's something about surfing that just keeps you feel like a child. We're out in the sea, just in the environment. And actually, whenever I come in from the sea, I might ache the next day, but I do feel energized and youthful.
And that's the thing when you're getting older, isn't it? Like, you still want to surf 3 times a day. After two surfs in a day, you're reaching for the deep heat and a cold beer. It's like, I'm done. Yeah, no, I'm done. I'd love to go in again, but I just can't anymore. But but your brain still tells you that you can and you want to do it. That's the thing.
I enjoy looking at all of your social media posts, and you seem to go everywhere with your own personal photographer.
I've only got one. It's only like a friendly Scottish man, but yeah, he does. He's always available if we need him. Yeah.
You capture the action, obviously, and it's nice to see you in the water and getting in there. And I suppose your kind of career, as you've moved through lots of different roles, but more, tell the world out there what you kind of do as your day job, because it's kind of a cool lifestyle.
Yeah, it's not bad.
What do you do?
I'm like the poor man British fisher. That's like, I surf, and my other job is I'm a DJ. Potentially in the 90s at the local beaches in North Devon, there's not particularly loads to do. I kind of found my way into surfing and then into music as well, and started DJing from about 13 years old, I think. Probably both about pretty similar sort of time frame. Kept doing both really for my life, and ended up making a career as being a DJ, and I've always been heavily involved in surfing, whether it's with Surfing England, the UK Pro Surf Tour, while I was judging, commentating, surfing in them. I kind of did all of the different aspects of the job, and then through being chairman of my local surf club, Woolacombe Boardriders, implementing that into our surf club and learning all those skills basically. So yeah.
I really, that's why I wanted you, Paul, onto the show today, because as a fellow chairman of Bude Wave Riders, you and I have kind of a unique perspective and understanding about how to run a community-based surfing club, and we've been doing it for quite a long time. I mean,
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, Woolacombe and Croyd, you are kind of real custodians of the surf club scene. You've been going for how many years has Woolacombe been going?
The Woolacombe Boardriders was founded in 1987. It wasn't the first surf club, but it was always had a slightly different ethos, and surf clubs back in the 80s and 90s was a very different mentality to the running of a surf club in this day and age, with all the kids involved and stuff. I did join the club as a child, but it very quickly drew you into adulthood, maybe too early, but different sides of the surf club as you were growing up, and how it's changed now, basically.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, the local surf clubs like Newquay and Croyd and yourselves, when they first were established, I'm sure there was a lot of kind of like social side, the pubs, the beer.
I mean, there was very much a rivalry as well. The Woolacombe and Croyd have got a headland that separates us. Croyd is a significantly better wave, and Woolacombe, we just said we had the better surf club because they had long hair and conditioner and stuff like that over there, and we had a hotel where we could all hang out, and the Red Barn pub, and we had like this and a nightclub, and we could
socialize a little bit more
and go surfing, obviously. An awful lot, but it was a good rivalry. It was everyone trying to push themselves in that day and age and be better, and the certain different age groups and stuff. It was great.
And you've had great names that have come from there. I mean, let's drop some names. The Campbells.
Yeah, both the Campbells, Stu and Lucy. Lucy's still out there, absolutely. Sending it basically. Stuart moved to Oz, but still possibly one of Britain's greatest ever surfers. And I saw him from a kid. Both of them. Oh my God, sorry. Both of them from kids growing up and like becoming like amazing surfers.
Yeah.
And that was always the thing for us at Woolacombe, is we had Neil Clifton, English champion, you know, one of that era's most watched surfers that everyone was like, oh man, wish I could surf like that. You know, so effortless and cool and powerful. And it was just that drive of having these good surfers that we grew up with and, you know, evolved through our club that makes you want to be a better surfer yourself, basically.
Yeah, greatness drives greatness. And
definitely.
And when you get on the coattails of really good surfers motivating, and also, as you described it, Neil, giving back to a community, because it's all very well, Paul, when you've got great surfers, but if they do nothing for their town in terms of the volunteering, it isn't going to have the same impact. So we are going to talk a little bit about what makes a surf club tick and how do you get it to have longevity and keep it going. So first and foremost, in terms of your committee, where do you find your committee?
What, like
in
the pub, probably, a home, a work.
Yeah.
You know, this is the problem. I think, you know, everyone's busy, you know, and have the best intentions from anyone is that, yeah, this is a great idea. I want to support this. I want to help drive it forward. And that's all very well when you sign up to something, but then sometimes it's a Sunday morning, it's chucking it down with rain. There's a contest site to set up, you know, someone's got to do a heat draw. I need judges to run the first heat. All of a sudden, sometimes it can be a bit, oh, okay. Yeah. You know, and it's hard because everyone's busy. Everyone's got kids and stuff, you know, it's just hard. And it's hard to, when it was something you grew up with. And when I used to start doing the Boardriders contest, there was 4 contests a year. You know, it was only open and juniors at that point. You know, I think it was only open when I first started doing them. There was no women's, there was no longboarding, it was one division. But there was a whole team there. You know, there'd be husbands and wives doing the judging, tabulating. You know, it was all organised before the contest started. I mean, Esther was, you know, head judge for many years through Surfing England and, you know, various tours. And it was him and a few select others that were literally driving that. And it was organised, you know, and having that when you turn up to a contest, because most people turn up to a contest, they surf, if they get knocked out, they're like, if it's their home beach, they'll be like, I'll just nip off. I've got something I can do. You know, if you're away from your home beach, people stay around. But when it's on the doorstep, it's very hard if people surf in the contest, then get knocked out to keep them there, to keep the contest running, basically.
It's that extra bit, that little cream on the top that you do to kind of create a vibe on the beach. So like the barbecue's running, or there's beach volleyball or things for the kids to do. And actually running surf contests now, the contest itself runs itself. It's what's going on the periphery that creates a real atmosphere that means it's a more of a festival feel, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, having keeping people there, keeping people engaged whilst you're having a contest. I mean, Woolacombe is actually quite unique in the fact that we've got this headland that's elevated above the beach. So where the contest site is, we can see the whole beach, you know, pretty much. Whereas, you know, a lot of other places, you're sea level, you're on the sand. That's where you have to set up your contest, and it's much harder to see for judges, stuff like that, glare on the sea, stuff like that. Having that elevated position at Woolacombe is really, you know, quite an advantage for running contests, and it means it's a good base that everyone can see as well. Yeah,
we found that at Bude, that we've really begun to identify where our best location for contest sites. Widmouth is always our go-to. We've ran interclubs in the past there. And
I mean, again, there you've actually got that little elevation in the car park, haven't you? So you can see.
And it's really good at like an amphitheatre at high tide. And then some of our town beaches, again, we're always thinking about where we can get that elevation. So you're absolutely right. And then I had a recent contest at Croyd, the Shabui comp they ran. It was an amazing comp, but they're having to utilise this truck that's got a kind of a scaffold and drive themselves down to the beach at low tide.
What the Saunton longboarders used to do. They used to have a truck with a big, like they'd have to stand on the top of the vehicle basically for the judges to be able to see. You know, and with those west facing beaches, anything that starts getting towards an evening, you've got glare on the sea, sun going down, you can't see anything.
No, it's tough.
It's a nightmare. So, you know, we're really lucky in that respect. And to have Coombsgate as well. So we have kind of got 2 different beaches that we can use, you know, for different conditions. But like you were saying, it is the having the volunteers, the people that can go, I can donate this amount of time, I can get down here, I can lift this, help set that up, I can take that job for a couple of hours or something. And just so it's basically it's for me. So I don't, or you don't have to do all of the jobs.
Yeah.
Because when you do all the jobs, the quality in those jobs is inevitably going to end up going down, and you want it to be as good as it can.
Yeah.
But covering all aspects by yourself is really, really, really quite hard.
Yeah, you're right. My committee are incredible. They often say I don't delegate enough, and I take on too much responsibility, and I'm learning to do that myself. And I think it's partly because when you're running surfing competitions and you're getting volunteers and parents, some of them haven't surfed. Some of them may not understand the logistics or the judging in those areas. So you do sometimes need specialist parents that are there that come from a surfing background, and they're not always the ones you get hold of. They may not be parents because they haven't got kids. So I've definitely found I've tried to utilize everyone's help. When someone says to me, I'll help, I want their help. And it's wonderful that we get that. And then as you move into kind of like your contests, it's upskilling people and giving them those skills to learn. So if they want to learn from judging, this is where Surf in England's been so supportive to us. We've approached them and said, can we have a judging course? And we've sent a few of our parents or young kind of late teens. They've then come back as skilled judges, and because they've been invested in, they stay with the club and keep giving back.
Absolutely. So I mean, we used to have, again, Esther, he used to do judging courses for us in the Woolacombe Boardriders, and it is where I learned to judge. I mean, I love watching competitive surfing. I watch all the contests, probably apart from the wave pool one.
Yeah,
but
we were talking about before.
Poor, wasn't it, at best? But you know, it is absolutely outstanding the amount of competitive surfers that have no understanding of the scoring system and what the judges that are going to be helping them through contests want to see them doing. It is outstanding. You know, I'd say half of them don't really understand judging. They don't understand the criteria of what they're just going surfing. You know, and when you're moving up to competitive surfing and you're trying to improve or you're trying to win a title or something, that is just an extra, you know, weapon in your arsenal to understand on a given day, given conditions, what those judges are going to want to see.
It almost should be in some ways that they have to go on a judging course as part of their development as a career, because I think they'd get it.
I find it outstanding. You wouldn't be a professional golfer without understanding the rules of the golf course, would you?
Yeah.
You know, because it would disadvantage you.
Yeah.
So why, as a surfer, would you not understand intricately the rules of what those, you know, the criteria of what the people that are scoring you are looking for, basically.
And I think Surf in England, in terms of their junior development, have really got that in the last couple of years. At the end of the Junior Surf Series this year, all the winners and the close runner-ups were invited to Newquay. Kerry from Surf in England, one of our most prestigious, not only UK judge, but she's judged even on the World Tour.
Spent many a time in the judging booth with Kerry. Yes.
Yeah, so Kerry did an amazing workshop with our young juniors coming through their careers on priority and understanding it in a really, really detailed kind of process. And it's great to see that in our events that we're moving into this year, so under 16s, under 18s and open are all running priority, which is amazing because Europe's been doing that for years. We should be doing it. And we've got under 12s and under 14s as well as longboard at Watergate a little bit later on in May. And I'm not sure yet whether they've confirmed priority, but if they do, that'd be another great thing for the young juniors to be doing, because again, it's about the judges.
I mean, again, like you're saying though, so I mean, all of these things that you're doing with Bude Wave Riders that all requires manpower. You know, you cannot deliver all of these different divisions and different events and you know, everything that people want it to be, but they have to put their hand up and go, you know, I can help, I can do this, I can be there for that. You know, because once you start running multiple divisions, it eats up the day, you know, really, really quickly. And if you get, you know, 25, 30 competitors, which we sometimes do, multiple divisions, you know, people are surfing 3 times, you know, and then, you know, in just for their divisions, it's a lot of admin. Yeah, really, I think
you're absolutely right. I've got very, very fortunate over the years of how I have been able to take the hand of the community and who offer it and be very grateful and show my appreciation. So you're right, like lifeguarding, being in a wetsuit down at the water's edge for the entire day is a really demanding task. So we circle our lifeguards. We provide opportunities for the local community parents to become lifeguards. We fund it through the club.
I did think about that, and I was potentially going to do it, and then I looked at the swim, went to the pool, and went, actually, I think I might just can that.
Well, there's a slightly different level now. So no longer did you have to have the NARS level of the 7 and 30.
Doggy paddle level. You'll get there, just don't know when. So some of our parents, we have volunteers that range from kind of like young
sort of in their 20s right up to 60-year-olds. We've got an absolute legend in our community called Bonzo, and Bonzo does it year on year.
Yeah.
And he diligently wants to hit that time, and I know he will.
Yeah.
But you don't actually have to do more than 200 meters of continual front crawl to get the surf instructor's lifeguard qualification.
Okay.
As soon as you open that up for our parents, it's an achievable opportunity. We've now got...
So hang on, I'm just quickly doing the maths, and that translates as 8 lengths of my local pool, front crawl, non-stop.
As long as you can keep going. It doesn't have to be
I'll
fast.
just
There's
hire
no time limit.
I'll just hire someone who needs a lifeguard. It's much easier. It's professional. It's all taken care of. I don't have to worry.
We all had our
tick.
Yeah, we all had our swim
Safety tick.
I mean, and that's the thing. If you can't do it, it's finding people to do it.
I think that you know, and that's the thing. We don't want to have someone do it that's not going to do it properly.
No.
You know, but like we were saying about the judging a minute ago, I mean, obviously commentating, when you're in a commentating environment, you also very much learn about surfing, competitive surfing, because you're listening to the judges. You've got them right there. You have to be completely knowledgeable on the whole running of the contest and the timings and when stuff has to happen.
Yeah.
You know, the surfers don't always have that, but that was the great thing with the Boardriders, that we always, as you grew up, we all rotated in all of these jobs. So if you're surfing, you judged a couple of heats as well, you know, and it really did bring our like judging level and up through the, you know, through that time. It was so important because it gave you a much better scope about surfing basically in contests.
Definitely. The I think a couple of weeks ago we had a man come to Bude to sort of like meet a lot of volunteers. He's called the Sheriff of Cornwall, a lovely guy called Sam, and he said that...
I thought that was Mike Durkin. I thought he was the Sheriff of Cornwall.
He could be. He could be the unofficial.
Yeah.
So when Sam came to meet us, he said that nationally in the UK, and this staggered me when he said it, 16% of people in the UK volunteer. In the Southwest, we're at 33%.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
And if you looked at community coastal towns like Woolacombe, Bude, Newquay, I'd say that figure would be even more, because the likes of surf life saving clubs, surf clubs, all the sports clubs, the rugby clubs, and all the different areas, that's what holds communities together and stops communities dying. And it's with the voluntary legends that are out there.
Oh, definitely. You know, like the rugby club I used to play with when I was a kid, you know, I still got people of my age that I played rugby with that are literally running all the kids' coaching programs. It's all, you know, voluntary.
Yeah.
There's no joy in it apart from watching the kids play rugby in a sport you want to see them improve at and be better at. Yeah.
So you and I we've traveled through our own surfing kind of careers, and we've competed, and then we get to the point that we're parents.
Yeah.
And now, you know, your
with
kids...
a child who's born on the same day and is exactly the same age.
That's right. Literally, our wives were in labour at exactly.
I've literally taken my glasses off for this interview because otherwise we're going to look like twins. Mine's got a slightly bigger quiff.
That's it. It's got some altitude.
Yeah.
What we need to really recognise in terms of why our kids are there now is that I think surf clubs are giving to our children in our communities, especially from the pandemic and all the things that have affected it.
Yeah.
What do you think that your kids are getting from your club? And I'll kind of like compare that with what we're doing at Bude.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can tell you right now, you're probably doing more than we are. But the big thing for me, like, again, when it came to the coaching, it was manpower. I mean, we had a really good people helping us, you know, like the beach owners and stuff like that. They were really helping us with the lifeguard cover and stuff like that, because it was an evening thing. Just to have certain permissions and stuff to use the beach if the lifeguards come off. And obviously it's kids, so you want to make sure they're as safe as possible. But just manning that, because we're trying to have like local, like good, the surfers that the kids would look up to if they go surfing. Me, just because I'm tall, obviously, so they have to naturally look up to me. You know, a couple of other local guys, like Lucy Campbell came and did sessions. Josh Witts surfed with them all the time. And it was more about having the kids not having to go surfing with their parents and just go surfing with each other. Yeah. You know, the good surfers are out there, but they're kind of just surfing. They're not, you know, they're helping people. They're talking to the kids. They're just going, how about this one? This looks like a good one. You know, talking to them when they paddle back out. Oh, that one look good, you know. But surfing in between, so everyone's just watching and learning and stuff, and it's just a stress-free time for them to just go surfing with their mates. Yeah. Which for me was the important bit. When I was young, it was nothing to do with trying to be a better surfer. It was, you know, the only thing you wanted to be better than was your mate. Yeah. You know, and that was what drove you to be better. But when you first started, it was just good times hanging out with your mates and, you know, larking around in the sea and splashing about and having fun. You know, and then it develops into, I want to improve. But that's the thing with the thing I'm trying to kind of roll with that at the moment. Is not really like the elite kind of coaching side. It's more just the enjoyment and the involvement in surfing, being down the beach, be down there with your family. Everyone's coming in and going surfing. It's fun, and that's what I kind of want.
I think
that to be.
I think Nuki do a very similar thing to that, BCAT. They do. They do a group. Everyone goes in, and in their case, it's like you've described. It's all the Groms with all of their parents. So I think that they're talking like 100 to 200 people in the water. I think when I spoke to Ollie, it's busy, and that's incredible. I mean, they're
it's like Fistral on a normal day, isn't it?
Absolutely, and they're all in a bright plethora of rash vest, and I mean that sounds magic. I know that Nuki now are on a waiting list. A couple of my friends that have moved down there are waiting to get in. So we've not reached that point.
I mean, we were on a waiting list for ours, but I mean because we weren't at 200 kids or anything like that, 200 people in the water, but we didn't want to make it too massive. We wanted it to feel like there's not everyone here, but we did want to. We've things like charging for it, or is it free for anyone? And there's when you haven't got the numbers and you haven't got the manpower to run it, you can't offer it out to, it has to be almost like a first come, first served.
Yeah.
And immediately it's gone. 12, 15 spaces, bang, gone immediately. And that for me, unfortunately, takes away the ability for those kids that, might really benefit from going surfing. Like where Ilfracombe, where I actually live, it is one of those Victorian seaside towns. It's quite run down. It's neglected by like the councils and stuff. All the money goes to the other spots. But that is where a lot of Woolacombe Boardrider surfers have come from. Neil Clifton was from Woolacombe. The Campbells live right in front of the beach. But, I mean, I came from Ilfracombe. All my surfing friends, they all came from Ilfracombe, really. There was probably more that came from Ilfracombe, and it's a lot poorer of an area to Woolacombe. I mean, especially now, you've seen it with Bude, house, no one local, unless they get given a house, has got any hope in hell of buying a house in their hometown.
Difficult,
Yeah, it's impossible. So, and Ilfracombe is, for us, is that step where it is a little bit cheaper. It's a bit more rough and ready. But, that there's so many kids there that could benefit from surfing that just kind of need that opportunity to come and do it for free.
We've kind of... We've looked at our disadvantaged community members and find ways with some amazing support from local surf shops, Zuma J's, The Cabin. They've funded us through sponsorship, and the Zuma J's have provided surfboards that we have as our stockpile. Now, what we can't do is provide boards for those Groms for every single one that turns up, but we've got a reserved group of boards that children that come that we know that would not better even hire that board from the surf shop, and those boards are ring fence for them. We work on, Zuma J's do this incredible deal for us where if a child rents a board from them, they run a tab for them, and at the end of that season, however many times they've rented, they offer that back as a discount off a board.
Okay.
So that's incredible cash back. And that's what I've had the most amazing feeling from my community surf shops, and that they've been able to invest in the club, because ultimately if these kids find a passion for surfing, they're going to be buying things from their stores over the years to come.
It's a new customer, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a long game they play, but it's a really supportive, and they are so supportive of us, and we are so grateful for them.
I mean, we're exactly the same in Woolacombe. All of the businesses that have supported the club over the years, I've always kind of been the one that does the fundraising. Trying for sponsorship for trophies and stuff. You do 80 trophies. It costs a few quid in the end, and you're like, whoa, entering the interclubs, that costs a few quid when you take 4 teams and stuff like that. You have to have some monetary value to be able to do these things. But the businesses, Bucky down at Surfing Woolacombe, he always help our surf club. Loads of the other surf shops, Shorter Surf, Bay Surf, loads of the pubs in Woolacombe as well, because we've got quite a lot of pubs. The nightclub used to sponsor a surfing contest, the Morisco Disco. The local businesses have always been, super supportive of the surf club, and they've helped us, produce our contest site, which was one of the best in the country at one point. And that makes a big difference that the community is actually there helping you, and it's going to be the same this year very much, I would imagine. I just haven't been around yet. But it's they always help, and they always do.
That's it. You've got to invest in your community. You've got to get the people to back you if you run a surf club. And the ones where I think it's working, the likes of Nuki and you and yourselves and Croyd, they've got pubs or community places backing them, and we promote them through our social media, and we thank them, and we have that presence so that they're getting their name known. And I think it's very much about, it's a mutual understanding. They are a sponsor. What can we give them back as a club?
Definitely. I mean, for us, the best example is the Red Barn pub right on the beach there. It was the hub of our surf club and surfing and stuff like that. And when I first started, there was always parties and stuff. And it's just different now. It's just not the same. Yeah, I still go out and enjoy a couple of shandies. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But we used to be a pretty raucous surf club. There's a lot of traditions in the Woolacombe Boardriders that are certainly adult rated, and it just doesn't really translate anymore, unfortunately. I don't know whether that means I have to be responsible and grown up and forget that side of
I think that
history, but it's just different.
Yeah.
There is so many more kids coming through now, and it's a lot. Obviously stuff has to be safer because it wasn't always. We used to go to. I slept in Fistral toilets going down to one of the surf contests and under a van in the rain in Fistral car park when I was like 15, I think, going to do a surf contest. I had to get down there lying in the back of someone's van under surfboards. You just wouldn't just wouldn't let your kid do that now, would you?
Yeah.
Which is brilliant, but it's a shame at the same time, if because that's where a lot of experiences and things in your head are made, and you work things out. But yeah, it had to evolve, I think, and it had to evolve into something more family friendly, something more elite, something more sportsman-like, something more driving the sport forward and keeping it clean, basically.
Yeah, and there are definitely some amazing tales of historically surf clubs and kind of like traditions and grommet abuse.
None of
things.
them for this podcast, I can assure you.
Absolutely not.
And I wasn't there at any of them.
No, absolutely not. But we thought as a club when we first established Boardriders 12 years ago that we'd be an adult.
Is that only how long you've been going?
Only 12 years. Yeah, it's not that long. Yeah,
freshies.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't got the history.
You've beaten us more times in that 12 years.
I think we were just really lucky that we had some.
To be fair, I've always done right. Our Interclubs 18 has pretty much been exactly the same for the last 10 years, I reckon. And I reckon if you put the average age of any of the surf teams together, our average age is like 40.
Yeah.
We've got Neil, luckily, who's still the oldest of our lot, but he's the most dependable because we just throw him in a van and go, "You're surfing, Neil." Yeah. This unfortunately your destiny. But we turn up every year because we love it, and that is the Interclubs. We really should hit on that. That forever that has been my favourite surf event of the year.
Me too.
No matter what year it was, it's always just been amazing, whether win or lose. If we have one, I think we did win one actually. It's just all of like the grassroots surfers coming together, and you do get that like competitive day of surfing, and then you get a crazy party in the evening, and it's just good. You see all your mates from the old beaches that you surfed against all your life, and that's just the best event of the year. And I'm so glad the Surfing England still run that and still prioritise it in their calendar. Yeah,
and we've and it's been quite unique, though we've held it predominantly at beaches. Quite recently, it's been Nuki, as they've been defending champions. So we've been apparently Nuki Boardriders. No, we've been down at Fristral.
Not aware of them.
they are a stronghold.
Well, I mean, that was very much the thing. I mean, Nuki are just ridiculous. They always have been. They've always had the surfers. And then they stopped doing it for a bit. And then it was Woolacombe and Croyd. And it was Woolacombe and Croyd. I mean, Croyd inevitably beat us more often. But the times we did get them, like even if it was in a certain division or something, it'd be like that.
Yeah.
Yes. And then Yuki started doing it again and ruined everyone's fun.
Yeah.
And it does come down to second place.
Yeah.
You're just like, well, Yuki's here. We'll take second. That'd be good.
They've had some amazing names on their rostrum, haven't they?
All of them.
They've had Russell Winter come out occasionally when it's been at their local, and it's great to see Russ. I've seen him surfing in Barbados.
I have loved seeing that. Like seeing
really
him getting some fire back and going, oh, hang on, I was good at this.
Yeah,
I'm going to be good at it again. And like shifting some of the deviancies of past. It's hard. It creeps up on everyone of a certain age. And especially when you've been so great, and the reality of working a day job and like, man. He's so good on him. Good on him to get back out there and ripping as well in was he Barbados?
Yeah, it's Barbados. Yeah. So we talked about the Interclubs, which is a really fantastic event where surfers get selected for their team, and they don't surf against each other in a standard competition where they're just trying to knock each other out progressively to a heat. You surf once on Saturday, once on Sunday. The Sunday generally with most of the adults having a hangover.
I prefer to surf later on the Sunday if that's possible.
I think that you generally ask for a heat draw later.
I generally get drawn first heat of the day as well.
But what's really special about that is they've got the junior section to it, and that is fiercely competitive. And our last event actually was held at the Wave.
Yes.
And there was a couple of clubs who were saying, look, why are we doing this? It's always been at a beach. But I think Surfing England absolutely nailed that event.
I mean, in my own team, we had division, basically, of the guys that were some of our best surfers said, no, I'm not doing it. It's not at the sea. It's in a pool. And I'm like, right, yeah, I understand that. Like, I've surfed the Wave and I've got a bit of a love and hate relationship with it. I've really enjoyed it at times. I've absolutely hated it at other times. And I've always left with less money in my wallet. This occasion, so we lost some of our best surfers because they were just like, no, I'm not doing it. It's not in the sea. We booked our like clubhouse in one of the tents and stuff like that. I had a whole team in there. Loads of us went up. I surfed more in that interclubs than I have in any other interclubs ever, because even if you weren't in a heat, you would still had free surf opportunities. There was the barrel option for like we were absolutely annihilated, torn to bits by the end of that contest.
Yeah,
there was a party in the Woolacombe Boardriders tent actually, but
value for money in terms of how much we entered in terms of the entrance and how much we got actually to surf there. Credit to the Wave, because that was an amazing event. The sun shone, the barrel set in, like Bo Betteridge and Bell, those two put on a clinic. It was amazing opportunity.
Just like to point out on the left-hander on the first day, after a fairly heavy evening, I was in 4th place on the left-hander.
Yeah.
Obviously, on the right-hander, trying to pig dog into any barrels. I was bottom of the pile.
And you're not a small surfer by any means.
Person,
to get yourself into those barrels, because they're a little bit smaller than perhaps the barrels you'd usually find.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not very good at getting barreled anyway. I mean, anyone who's been to Woolacombe will obviously understand that, because it's very, very rare occasion. But it was a great event. And, we all did it. Everyone was there. No one could go anywhere. Everyone was on site in their tent, so there was a real good like community feel about it and stuff. It was really good fun. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't want to run it there every year, and I thought Porthtown last year was going to be a great venue, and it was cancelled unfortunately. But the Woolacombe Boardriders went anyway.
Yeah,
we had a great weekend away, and that for the interclubs, that is part of it. It's not always just about the surfing, but it is seeing everyone just getting out of your home beach and going to another beach, going surfing, chat with the other guys and stuff. Having a few tinnies and having a nice weekend away. It's just a good weekend basically.
It certainly is. Yeah. And that's what is kind of like integral into our community surf clubs. Now, Australia and America, they are well ahead of us in terms of their history of surf clubs. And you see even some of the pros, they still, when they go back, they're still affiliated to a local surf club and they compete. And I've been watching.
That's like one of the biggest contests of the year. Like, you've got Parko and Mick all surfing for like Snapper and stuff like that, and it's ridiculous pro surfer names, all still surf for their surf club.
Yeah.
Because that's where your mates were. That's what you grew up with. That's where you probably enjoyed your most favourite time in surfing, is when you grew up with your club around you. And it's such a defining moment in a surfer. At Stuart, the Campbells, they've always been Woolacombe Boardriders. And we've always gone, you're a Woolacombe Boardrider, you're surfing for us. You don't have any options.
No.
It doesn't work like that. You're a Woolacombe Boardrider, you're surfing, and people have tried it for years and years and done, maybe this year and no, back you come.
You're in.
Yeah, we wouldn't allow them.
And credit to Nuki, they got invited to the Usher Cup.
Oh, yeah, that was amazing, yeah.
And that's, if anyone didn't hear about that, that's an international cup with 20 surf clubs from around the world, as well as then a load of Australian cups at Snapper.
Yeah.
They paid for their transport to get there, I think, or accommodation when we were there, either one of those. And then Nuki were there representing England. And then I think, if we could be honest, a lot of impact was because of Lucas. Lucas's name was so massive that he has kind of like brought Nuki's Boardriders into the world, but they still have huge integral history anyway.
I mean, Russ was Nuki, so they've always had the best. So Luke did really well, hit the QS and stuff like that. Never quite had that moment, but he had those few contests in Indo and stuff where he unloaded and everyone was all of a sudden, oh, hang on a minute, look at this guy, really turning heads.
Yeah.
And I think for quite often for the British surfers, it is that continuity, that being able to like do it in all the waves, because you can do it. It's just doing it when you need to do it. Yeah. Whereas Lucas seems to now be able to just do it when he's half asleep. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm absolutely loving watching that. Yeah. So I'm like, we're going to have a world title, hope, at some point. And he's come up from grassroots British surfing.
He has literally been born and raised in a family of incredible surfers, with Ben and being, second best in the world in his longboarding.
Absolutely. I mean, pedigree, isn't it? Obviously, the whole family. It's, and you've got had their own beer company. There's
dream.
let's not start.
Now, whether you've heard, sadly, Lucas has had quite a severe injury.
I was trying to find out about a minute ago. I've seen he's obviously back in
not
some
quite
past,
certain on the details. It's only literally just happened in the last couple of days, but I believe quite a significant leg break. Saw some photos on his Instagram, and the rumour is around about a year out, which is heartbreaking. I am going to try and get Lucas on the show in the next couple of weeks with his father and Lila. I'd like to get a kind of Skinner family episode going.
Well, he's not going to be surfing.
No.
No, so or skateboarding, so you might be available. Now's a good time.
Yeah, but he's a very, very resilient young man. He's had actually quite a significant injury prior to this, which he's got the mindset, and you can see his mindset is, I will recover from this. And actually, when he finished recovering from the original injury, he came back better.
I mean, I've seen it with so many people that, I've been really lucky that I haven't had any injuries really over my surf. And if I had, it was like a little bit of an ankle, or, I'm out of the water at the moment for like a month. But I'm just so keen to get back in there. You play it all through in your mind. And I think with these, with the top level surfers, people like Lucas and stuff, and what Russ is doing as well at the moment, is when you stop doing something and you can't do it, you also want to do it more. Yeah. But then you can refocus on it. You can reevaluate and go, oh, maybe I could do that. Oh, maybe I should try that. And you play through scenarios in your mind. And I think someone like Lucas, who is all of a sudden like, everyone's gone, whoa, hang on. Look at this guy. Yeah. This is ridiculous. And how old is he? And he's from where? He's from Britain. Don't be stupid. All of a sudden, he's got the sponsors, he's got the backing, and then to have this injury now is probably a good time to have it, because he's going to come back wild as hell and go, I've missed a year.
Let me at it.
Yeah, I'm going to tear him one. Yeah, which I can't wait to see. Can't wait for it. Can't wait to put him on my fantasy team.
Exactly, you want to have him on there. I mean, you and I, we're avid fantasy surfer kind of like.
I'd watch Abu Dhabi then. Yeah, if I've got Skinner on my fantasy team, and I can watch the Abu Dhabi, I'll watch it then. Yeah,
that would be enough. Yeah, and
so chop, Lucas. If you can just get that sorted, that'd be great, mate.
Yeah, from all of us at Surfing England, we wish Lucas a speedy recovery.
Absolutely.
And we obviously have. We've talked about Surf Club. The junior section of kind of like club surfing has exploded with the junior kind of surf series that Surfing England launched a number of years ago, led by Phil Williams. The
legend that is Phil. Yeah,
absolute legend.
Still see him out in the middle of nowhere surfing Dornies and stuff like that in the middle of winter.
That guy,
man's a legend. We've had some conversations, I can tell you.
And Phil's just stepped down from his role as steering Christian surfers in the UK after many years of huge faith and dedication. What a ledge. And it's going to be massive shoes to fill. Phil's filling his shoes.
Phil.
Yeah, his legacy is immense. But when Phil stepped there, he's been taking on that kind of junior surf series. And we're now seeing like some of those young surfers who are competing 4 or 5 times at clubs. Like we were talking that you can run your own club, and I've run our club, and they get to go to different beaches, sampling different waves. Yeah. This is what they need to follow in Lucas's footsteps to be able to then go on into the tour. Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
I mean, it's all very well being the best surfer at a local beach, isn't it? But if you can't do that at another beach, the whole joy of surfing, isn't it? Every beach you go to is completely different. Every day is different. Learning that variety of surf spots and different conditions and steeper waves, fatter waves, getting barreled, doing airs and stuff, that's what builds the quality of surfer that you end up with Lucas, because he's been to all of it. He's just done Hawaii. That was always my big question, he's amazing aerialist, and I know he's got power, but can he take on 15-foot pipe and, get absolutely shacked? And obviously we've seen he can. Yeah. So, he's got the cojones for it. He's got that glint in his eye. So, that's that variation, and being to get to that pedigree requires you to be able to feel comfortable in all conditions.
Yeah, he is phenomenal. But not only that, an incredibly grounded, mature, and charismatic young man.
Yeah, he's a chilled out dude, isn't he?
yeah.
Like, it just
He's the
doesn't
full
seem to
package.
be like, he's just kind of rolling with it, which
Yeah.
is, anyone who's met Ben knows Ben's pretty chilled out. You know,
Yeah.
he just kind of rolls with it and stuff like that. So it's obviously some quality genes there.
Yeah, Ben's and Ben's wife Michelle, they've both raised some lovely kids there. I think what I'd like to do to kind of like finish this, which has been a great chance to talk about surf clubs, Paul, is to think, where do you think that kind of like surf clubs are going? Is it going to be that the adolescent side of the social side is dwindling and they're going to almost all become junior clubs? Or is it going to be that those juniors grow into young adults and stay with the club? What do you hope?
I don't know. I mean, I guess, my life crosses over as a DJ, crosses over into that party side of society as well. And for me, that kind of went hand in hand growing up. Pubs are closing, nightclubs are closing, DJing's on Instagram. You just have to wave your hands in the air and play a tune. And, it's life's for likes these days, isn't it? So, yeah, maybe that is something that's going to end up missing from the surf club makeup as such. But, I think a social, I think it'll be socials, but it might just have to adapt into what the youth now want it to be in 10 years time, and how it focuses. Like I said, our interclubs team is still, 45 years old average age. It's there still is that old guard that want it, but they can also see the evolution of it, that it does need to adapt. And, you'll lose guys along the way as they get older and they tail off from, years of volunteering and stuff. And they're like, someone else's turn, they'll sit back and watch it.
Yeah.
And it, we'll end up handing the club over to the next generation. My job for me, in my head, is I have one job, and that is to future-proof the club with everything they need to run contests, everything set up, all of the websites there, merchandising and stuff. It all runs itself, basically, apart from the volunteers. You just need men and women, boys and girls on the ground to lift stuff, move stuff around, be there to just help direct it. But, when it comes to when I do stand down, I just want to make sure that everything's in place. Relationships are great. Someone else can just step in and go, it's running.
Yeah.
Like you would if you sold a business. It has to be operational, hand it over. That's what it looks like. It works, kind of thing.
There has to be a Woolacombe Boardriders, there has to be a Croyd Surf Club, there has to be a Bude Wave Riders, because those towns need it. They value it. It's keeping kids off the streets. It's giving kids direction, social skills, purpose, understanding water safety, because many of our kids go on to be the lifeguards of the beaches.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're giving back to their community. They're saving lives outside of lifeguarded hours.
Yeah.
And big shout out to all the volunteers that help out there.
None of it happens without volunteers, basically. Yeah.
So just personally, myself as chair as Bude Wave Riders, thank you to all my volunteers. I'm sure you're the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise, since it's been happening, it's built on our volunteers, and it's taken some amazing people in the community through those decades of doing jobs endlessly, tirelessly, without thanks, and just making sure it gets done. So massive thank you to everyone that's lifted a finger, basically.
Well, Paul, I just want to say before I thank you, Max Palmer. Max is our Surfing England kind of like club link officer. He works with myself and Paul across the community clubs. He's driving kind of the development of brand new clubs, and there are clubs of surfing popping up all over the country. We're talking like Blackpool. We're talking like way away from.
Bring it to us.
Absolutely, and we're really empowered to hear that, because we're wave blessed down here. In other parts of the country, it's not the same. But there are inland clubs developing where they travel to the local places and the local beaches that we surf regularly. And if you want to get any information about the type of opportunities of how to set up a surf club, by all means, you can drop both myself and Paul a message. We're reachable through them. Max sometimes can pass on information from existing clubs. But if you think about it and you want it and you think it'll be a valuable asset in your community, if you make a meeting, and this is my final kind of tip, go to a local hotel or pub, say on your social medias, I'm thinking of setting up a surf club. People will come. And when they come,
definitely.
They will say, oh, I'll volunteer to do that. And all you've got to do is set up a constitution, and we can be helped you with that. Before you know it, you'll be following in the footsteps of the history of Woolacombe Boardriders, of Croyd, of Newquay, and myself at Wave Riders.
Yeah,
it's well worth it.
And then you can come to the interclubs and have the best weekend of your life.
That's definitely true.
sort of.
Right, thank you, Paul. It's been an
Absolute
absolute treat
pleasure.
to get you
Yeah,
on Off the Lip
likewise.
today. And best of luck for the season. And hopefully you don't get too beaten by us at the Interclubs this year.
Never going to happen. We'll see you at the bar.
Okay, that was Paul Barrington from Woolacombe Boardriders, getting behind what it takes to run a really successful community surf club. Thank you to the Caravan and Motorhome Club for being our official partner in these episodes and podcasts. We really appreciate their ongoing support. And all the action today has been captured by Mora Media House, our official partner, creating these podcasts. It's really great to come to Surfing England's headquarters and capture this episode, and I wonder if we'll be back here soon speaking to some more guests. See you next episode on the sofa.
I've been running from the wind. I can feel the darkness creeping in.
I'm Martin Reay, and I'm your host of Off the Lip, brought to you by Surfing England, the national governing body of surfing in England. Thank you to the Caravan and Motorhome Club, our headline sponsor, and to Mora Media House for creating these podcasts.
You